This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kim from The Perfect REA. Thank you for joining me on today's Fallout Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. On Monday's episode, Matt and Micah were talking about the basics of delegation. Matt believes this lives on a spectrum of people who feel that they don't have time to delegate to those who look at this as a superpower. As Micah explained, there's a lot of head trash around this, and you need to push back. You already delegate 99.9% of the things in your life. So now it's about how do you up the value that you're delivering to your clients by delegating. Matt pointed out you could get to your practice to a certain level with just pure muscle, but you won't get to that next level without delegation. There's limited time in the day, and then you only have certain times of peak efficiency. Micah talked about how there are tasks that he loves to do, and he's really good at, and it provides a lot of value. But all those other things, whether he enjoys them or not, he needs to bring someone else in to do that. In addition, just because you delegate something, it doesn't mean it doesn't get reviewed. There are things that Micah has delegated and then he doesn't even think about them. But there are other things that are mission critical that absolutely need to be reviewed. For example, his billing. He has other people on his team who are doing this, but he makes sure that he goes and reviews it. This also comes down to how long you're spending on doing something and making sure that you're focusing your time on what is the most valuable use of your time. So what's a great place to start with delegation? Interruptions in email can absolutely mess with your day, so email's a great place to start. Have someone go in and delete your junk email, and then have a process set up for emails that someone might be uncertain about whether they're junk or not. You can set up a rule that will skip all emails from coming in except for a few, and then everything else goes into a team review folder. Whoever on your team is set to handle this, have them highlight the ones that you need to go in and respond to. You should only be seeing what's been filtered. What about answering your phone? As Matt shared, no advisor should be answering their own phone. It creates a bad precedence with clients and it isn't productive for you. Scheduling is another area to delegate and automate, and also anywhere you're not reliable for results. Also any administrative task. The most focus of your time should be on development, so sales, prospecting, training, client meetings, and value adds. What about your expectations and taking something back once you've delegated it because it wasn't done correctly? You've heard Matt and Micah mention this before, that when you delegate something, you can't take it back. But you should have safety measures in place. That way you can have a discussion with your team when something goes wrong, and you need to have the right expectation. For example, right now, Micah has a new assistant, and he's expecting that things are going to be different. He recommends that when you delegate, you need to have a running agenda of things that you've delegated for your weekly EA meetings. When he does this, it gives him a glimpse of how his assistant is approaching a problem and why they're making certain decisions. Matt said that advisors can get stuck when designing the process for delegating tasks. They think there needs to be a 20-page process on how to do something. But he said almost anything can be boiled down to one sheet of paper, and ideally it's more questions than answers. A common question Matt and Micah receive is when to bring someone on and what tasks should be delegated. They said that if you're just starting out and you don't have a solid growth plan, they don't recommend that you're hiring a bunch of people to do everything yet. You need to have many coming in first, but you do need to get a part-time VA as quickly as possible. Before then, you need to make sure that you're focused on time blocking. Matt and Micah recommend that you need to have a threshold for this. A simple way to do this is by figuring out what is your ideal client worth today, then figure out the hourly rate. This should set the level for delegation. So anything less than that dollar amount, you need to think about delegating because you need to be focused on the highest value of your time if you really want to grow your practice. Remember, the guy said that you want to embrace your team members and that once you delegate, you're never taking it back. Make sure that you're having your team review the process for what you're delegating and expect that things will go wrong, but also make sure that you articulate what the process needs to be. Lastly, empower your team. You also need to be a leader instead of the easy button. So be sure to ask your team how they would handle problems. Let's get into action items from Monday's episode. Pick 3 to 7 things and choose to delegate them. This could also be in your personal life, and then figure out who's going to do them. And then figure out what is going to fill the place of what you're delegating. Whatever time is freed up, fill that with a high value item. On this week's What Works Wednesday, Matt was joined by Coach Adam Silberstein to talk about emotions, mindset, and this concept of being above or below the line. Adam shared how most of the time people aren't just focused on financial success, but also how to have holistic success. So being a successful partner, parent, community leader, and having a positive relationship with himself. And he said, hopefully happy, uplifted, and joyful. Matt and Adam discussed this idea that you work hard to get to the top of this mountain and that your head trash would suddenly go away and that it's everything you want and then you're suddenly happy. It's this dynamic that if you train, then you can have something and then be something. Adam then talked through this concept of being above the line or below the line, and that it's important to start with this idea of being, that right now in this moment, you can be whatever you want to be. He said we have much more command over our mindset than we think, and that if you don't have command over your emotions and mindset, that can portray someone who doesn't have it together. So by having this check-in to see if you're above or below the line, it can bring an awareness to where you are. Adam said you need to create some separation between your emotions and your mind so you can observe your emotions. You need to be in command of your mindset, but it doesn't mean that you don't feel your emotions. But you do need to have a place to process those emotions. Adam and Matt discussed how this can come into play with your team, and especially when there's a mistake made with a client, that you don't want to act from that emotion, and that we all need a little bit of space between emotion and taking action. Adam also said that conflict is important in organizations. If people feel safe, they feel safe going into conflict. And if your team is holding something back, it actually robs you of the opportunity to grow and be a better leader. Let's get into action items from Wednesday's episode. Create a space for your employees to feel and be heard, and offer open-ended questionnaires. You want to create a space where your employees aren't withholding ideas or thoughts. You want to care about what someone on your team has to say. And then if someone is on your team, then they have a right to an opinion. If you're not interested in hearing their opinion, then they probably shouldn't be on your team. On this week's Worlds to Conquer, Jamie kicked off a discussion on executive assistants and virtual assistants. Jamie is always shocked with people who have a lot of employees, but they can't point to a specific person who does nothing but facilitate their needs. They think that the more employees they have, the less of a need they have for an EA. Jamie said that if you don't have someone, you're probably doing a disservice to yourself. You have a financial responsibility to everyone you interact with to remain profitable, and that you're all small business owners in some capacity. Jamie then went on to discuss how to define what an EA does and what's the role and whether you need someone full-time or part-time. Jamie talked through her experience with hiring an executive assistant, which was when it was first mentioned to her, her immediate thought was no way. That she was the only one who could do all of these tasks in her life. However, she realized that there were people who do certain tasks she does not need to be doing. When she first hired an EA, it started as a part-time position. Once she brought her in, she had limited scope and was able to give her small tasks. Jamie realized that it opened up so much more time in her schedule for those things that only she can do. And it also allowed her to buy back parts of her day. The first thing Jamie did was spend time analyzing her day to see what were things that someone else could be handling. She realized email was a huge time suck for her. Also, another area was meetings. She wanted to make sure that she was only in the meetings that she really needed to be in. Also, business operations and discerning which business education and conferences to go to each year. Her EA will research this and filter it. She'll book the conference, the travel, the reservations, and the activities. This person guards her calendar so things happen the way they need to be. And this has to be articulated and documented. So anytime Jamie's making a decision, she writes it down. And another easy way to do this is by recording yourself via Loom. Jamie said that she has a standing meeting with her EA each week to go through each task, see where they are, and what the status is. Jamie recommends that you try an EA or VA and give yourself 60 to 90 days and assess this and see if that person alleviated some of your stressors and gives you back some of your time to do more of what you need and want to do. She said programs are out there that will help find someone who aligns with your style. Jamie said anytime you're making a decision on something you don't have to be involved in, this is something you can delegate to someone else. She said it's easy to have this guilt that you don't need someone to do something you can do yourself, but this person will give you back time in your day. Let's get into action items from Thursday's episode. Over the next couple of weeks, be honest with yourself and write down all the time sucks in your day. And don't justify any of them. This will help you prioritize tasks that you want to delegate or keep. Hire an EA or a virtual assistant, full-time, fractional, or part-time. Just see what fits best for you. And create a system to explain to others what you want done and how you want it done. So whether that's a Google Doc or a Loom video with a screen recording, you need to put the energy in to train someone. And then from there, you're just checking in on a status. Make sure that they have the resources that they need. Lastly, sign up for the Perfect RIA and Retirement Tax Services events at the end of September. Visit theperfectria.com to get signed up. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. Be sure to give us 5 stars wherever you're enjoying this podcast and share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA, the perfect